Last year should have marked the 10th anniversary of the Foyle Pride Parade, but instead they're the pandemic.
Celebrations were cancelled but will be resuming this year in Derry from August 23rd.
To celebrate this occasion, we, the young people of Headliners Foyle, inquired about the inclusion in the city.
We spoke to members of the community and asked them what it was like to be queer in Derry.
My name is Shah Gillespie and I'm a queer woman.
My name's James Doherty and I identify as a gay man.
My name is Rossa Smallman and I am a gay man.
My name's Emer Willis. I identify as a queer woman, so my pronouns are she, her, and yeah, that's me.
Do you think Derry as a city is welcoming to minorities, in particular the queer community?
I think definitely more so now than it was years ago. I moved to Derry in '93, and growing up in Derry at that time there was a lot of homophobia, particularly myself as well. You know, walking down the street you'd have a lot of people throwing abuse at you and maybe being spat on and being hit in clubs and stuff. But I think since Pride in 2010 and having the parade and visibility in the streets, it's definitely got better for sure. It's still there, you know, it's definitely still there, but I think it's definitely got a lot better.
Once Shah and those other women put together the first Pride Parade, people were visible, and I think a lot of people who would have been ignorant, maybe through no fault of their own in the past, then began to know gay people, maybe within their own extended families, and so the understanding was much better than it had been in the past.
As a queer person living in Derry, do you frankly feel safe living here?
Feel safe and tolerated, yes. Sometimes I still feel a wee bit on edge walking down the street, especially if I'm with a partner or something like that. But feeling accepted, no, because there's nothing really here for me specifically.
It depends on what way you look at it. I think if you were to do a public poll tomorrow and say, do you accept LGBT people or do you know an LGBT person, most people in Derry would say yes, and yes 100%. Because when you look at Foyle Pride over the years and how that's grown organically, people of Derry come out time and time again. And that doesn't always match the legislation that we have in place, but the people in Derry come out to show that as a community, they have our backs. Grannies, aunties, uncles, mums, dads, they come out and support us, and that's kind of the main thing.
Shah was one of the first people to make Derry our home as an out gay woman, whereas people of my generation just left. So we left, I left Derry in 1978 and I didn't return until the 2000s. And a whole other generation of Derry people did the same thing. So although things were evolving very, very slowly, the fact that people like Shah decided to make Derry their home and be out and proud was a whole new beginning for Derry. So they had a lot of hard work to face that we didn't, because we just disappeared. And then there were people who weren't courageous enough to leave back in the 70s, who, you know, some of them are still around today and they experience mental health problems. There's been suicides in the past that have never been explained, but I would suggest could be related to a problem of sexual identity and acceptance, for sure.
Are you afraid of what the future will hold for the LGBTQIA community?
Honestly, no. I'm somewhat excited because the progress is there, it's happening, it's just happening at a snail's pace. Like, support is being built, it's just sometimes being overlooked, sometimes being swept under the carpet. It just needs that sort of kick to get it going, get everything set up and let people live their lives as they should be able to. So it doesn't really scare me, and I see it as not just progressive, but also just an inevitability.
You've got a lot of mainstream media which sometimes doesn't always report us in the most fair light, and it's often the more taboo things that are reported on, the more exciting or explosive headlines. And then so what that does is, if you are not a queer person and you maybe don't know anybody who's LGBT, that paints a picture, and that kind of that narrative feeds into all of our internalized queerphobia and the heteronormative society that we live in. That to be said though, there are queer publications within Northern Ireland and Ireland as an island that we work really closely with in Rainbow. So we've got GNI based in Belfast, and we've got GCN, which is Gay Community News, based out of Dublin. And so it's great that they give us opportunity to, like, we work on the community, and sometimes maybe these publications don't have access to people within the community access and services, so we can work hand in hand to make sure that the narratives and the stories of queer people that are being told are appropriate, because that's the other thing, is that we're often sexualised media, and that's not always appropriate because it's not fair. So it's nice when we have control, and we have choice, and we have a bit of say over how people report about our lives, and rather than it being reactionary and explosive.
What was it like coming out?
Personal experience, I am very privileged that I've got a very loving and accepting family, and so whenever I came out, my family were kind of like, yeah, no shit, like we all knew as well. We've known for longer than you have, and so it was very much like we had that one conversation, and then that was it. There was nothing that had changed, so I was very lucky. But coming out in Derry generally was fine, was easy breezy. I went to an all-girls Catholic grammar school, and that was a bit exciting, trying to be out there. But I kind of just feel like I didn't really care what anybody thought at that time, and again, I feel very privileged that I was armed with the ability to feel that way as well. So yeah.
Luckily for me, and I feel quite privileged, my family was very accepting. I have a brother who came out years before I did, and so he really went through all of the rigmarole of, is it safe, can I do this? He did that first, so I knew it was accepting anyway. But even still, like, whenever you're coming out, there's always this roadblock that you hit. Even if you know it's perfectly safe, you still just don't want to accept it yourself. You still don't want to go that extra mile. And so, while it was easier for me, for certain, I still found it hard, found it difficult. I came out to my mother because we ordered guapo, and she didn't get guacamole on her nachos, and it turned into an argument that somehow ended up in me coming out. Honestly, that day is a complete blur to me. It was strange.
I never actually came out to anybody, really, apart from my closest friends at the time. But when it comes to family and parents and stuff, it was just like they discovered it when in their own time. But I didn't say to them, this is what I am. Part of that was because I didn't want to have the conversation. Yeah. Part of it was also a bit of defiance, I think, on my part. Why should I have to explain who I am?
Yeah. I didn't really come out either. I grew up in Donegal and didn't come out in Donegal, and then came to Derry when I think I was 19 or so. And I think I was already out then. I'd come out to my sister, and my sister was fine about it, but how I officially came out was there was an event in Derry for Pride. This was before there was any parades, and there was a camera crew called Gay Time TV, which I didn't know they were actually filming, and it was, I think it was Claire McMaster. Do you remember Claire? She was doing an interview and says to me, come over and stand with me. But I didn't realise that I was actually outing myself on Gay Time TV for the whole world to know. So the phone started ringing and I was like, oh God. So that was that, everybody knew. A couple of months ago we decided that probably the time is right now in Derry to have a parade. It's the first parade in Derry, and for some reason, you know, we thought, let's do it. There was a lot of people afraid to do it, but we decided, let's do it, see what happens. There's an amazing buzz, and I think it's going to be an amazing day today.
I work at the door to a nightclub, and over the last number of years I've noticed that there doesn't seem to be any separation between young gay people and young straight people. They are just groups of people. I think that's why there's no real need or no huge demand anymore for an exclusively gay space like a gay bar in Derry, because young people aren't looking for that, because they don't feel like they have to separate off into individual groups. So I think that just tells the story. I think that explains how much things have moved forward. I mean, in London a couple of years ago, I was meeting a nephew of mine who's a Londoner, who's gay, and I thought I'll arrange to meet him in a gay bar in Soho, thinking he would know it. But he'd never been in a gay bar before, although he's an out gay man, because he doesn't need to go there to, you know, to find support or to meet people or whatever. And I see that in Derry every night of the week. I mean, there's groups of people who drink in this bar, you know, and if you ask me to try and identify any one of them or guess what their sexuality might be, I couldn't tell you. And it's not relevant to them, but it is a result of a lot of years of hard-working campaign that they may not even be aware of.
Yeah. I have to say that we could learn a thing or two from the young people within our service. They are unreal. They know all about solidarity. They know all about shared struggle, and they know that there's no equality until everyone has equality, and there's no access to healthcare until everybody has access to healthcare. And so we as staff members are constantly bowled over by the energy and the enthusiasm and the access to information that the young people have. And so it's great to cross paths with them at the kind of times that I do, because I always leave having learnt something. And so if I was to, if that was in any way to give you an answer to how they feel about inclusion and equality within the city, that is it. They are the advocates in the Pride parades. They are the ones on the parade who are marching and who are shouting for the people who can't be there, and for the people who feel like they don't have voices, whether that's within our city or globally. They're absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see what they do when they all grow up.
The biggest ever Foyle Pride Parade took place today in Derry. A crowd of thousands marched through the city waving rainbow flags and calling for equality. One of the march organisers, Shah Gillespie, said it was a proud day for the city.
Today is a really happy day for everybody in Derry. It's a really, as you can see, it's a really colourful parade. It's about bringing inclusion onto the streets of Derry, and it's just amazing. It's amazing to see so many people here. It's really family orientated. You can see, look at all these beautiful kids here today, really enjoying themselves and really being proud, and I'm very happy, and it's going to be a fantastic day.
How does it make you feel seeing all those young people getting involved in Pride every single year? Because I go there every single year, and there's thousands of people, and there's bands up on the stage, and you know, everyone's involved. Like, how does that make you feel? It's great, isn't it?
It's an amazing feeling, because I mean, the first year we did Pride, you know, the parade starts at 2 o'clock from the train station, and I was there from maybe 7 in the morning getting everything set up, and at 1 o'clock I was standing in the car park with myself and 3 other people going, nobody's coming, and about 1:45, busloads of people started arriving, and there was like, I think there was like 6,000 people in the first parade. And it's absolutely incredible, because we're community based as well, you know what I mean, and you have families coming out, grannies, grandas, kids in prams, and they're coming out with their kids who probably have just come out to them, you know, so it's an incredible feeling. And I mean, so many young people came out to me walking over the Craigavon Bridge. They were like, I couldn't have come out if you hadn't done this. So I mean, it's a huge thing. It absolutely is, and it was really difficult to do, because so many people were telling us not to do it. We're going to be a laughing stock, and don't be doing it, but I'm really glad we went ahead and done it, and we made history in Derry, and it's one of the biggest parades now, actually, in Europe. It really is.
It gets bigger and better every year,
Yeah.
and I think people don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into it. Consider we're working with very small amounts of money. It really is hard work, but I think it's really interesting the question you asked, because when you see all those young people and you see them being applauded by neighbours and shoppers on the streets, it's a really good feeling. One of my favourite things is standing at the bottom of Shippey Street on that final day when the parade takes place and seeing it coming down, and then it makes it all worthwhile when you see that kind of joy, and it seems to be radiating from the square and into the smiles and aisles of people all around.
What kind of advice would you give to your younger selves, or just anyone questioning their sexuality or gender identity?
Saying to my 14-year-old self probably would be just fight back. But not fight in a physical way, but be more assertive and stronger and harder and better. But I fight back and just hope that everybody around you would be a lot nicer.